Hey, it's another edition of Dan's Models. Dan and John here, and we're looking at a familiar engine. Familiar for a couple reasons. One, it took the hopper out of our picture last week. And two, I watched you detail and weather this for our Weathering and Detailing Diesel Locomotive series, didn't I?
Yeah, this is one of the locomotives on Volume 3.
Okay.
It's an Atlas B23-7.
HO scale.
HO
right?
scale, yeah. Union Pacific, obviously. Yeah, I did a fair amount of work to this engine to make it a little more prototype correct. So starting with an aftermarket horn, I think these are ex-Missouri Pacific units, and I looked at photos and they had the horns mounted off to one side or the other depending on the engine, but this one was on the fireman's side. And no, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's the engineer side, isn't it?
Yeah. So this one was on the engineer's side, and also put the firecracker antenna. I added some aftermarket Photo-Etched Sun Shades and aftermarket windshield wipers. And I also changed the little grab irons on the front of the short hood here to make them a little more to scale, because the Atlas ones are a little clunky, a little thick.
Yeah. As you said one time, they look like sewer pipes on your train.
Yeah, they were just, I mean, the model's otherwise pretty nice, but that was kind of something that stood out and screamed a model to me. So, you know, I wanted to change it.
Right, so looking at it from this angle, I can tell that the windshield wipers are definitely aftermarket parts. Are those A-line or?
Yeah, I believe they are.
Yeah.
And did some work on the Pilot too, you know, with the MU hoses, or actually those might be the ones that came with it, but you know, I put the plow on it. It already had the uncoupling levers, but I also custom made the little MU cable holder.
Oh,
Did
right.
one of those on both ends. The little thing that looks like a little can mounted at an angle on the stanchion there.
Yeah, I remember that, because I remember when you were making it, I was thinking it would look neat to have a light in it, but that was the wrong idea.
Yeah, no, they don't have a light. That's for those. It's just a place to throw the dummy end of the or one end of the MU cable when it's not being used to connect it to another engine. A lot of Union Pacific locomotives have that, or at least they used to. And so I found a way to make this so it's fairly durable. It won't fall off. A long time ago, I tried making them just by gluing a little piece of tubing to the stanchion, and that always lasted about 5 minutes until you touched it the first time, and then it would come off.
Yeah, I don't think it would come off just by looking at it.
Yeah, so I figured out a way to do it that it won't happen.
Yeah.
So
and you can get the secret to that on our Weathering and Detailing.
Yeah.
What is it, Volume 3?
Volume 3, yeah.
Volume 3. I cleverly added a little picture of the cover right now.
Yeah.
See, it's a marketing video, Dan.
Yeah. I also, I know this engine doesn't have a lot of lights, but I redid the headlights with new fiber optic lenses, and I separated the functionality of the number boards so they can be turned off independently.
Yeah.
On, off, and then, of course, the headlight. I like them to be independent because that's how a real locomotive is.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of models are set up so that the number boards and headlight work together, and I really don't like that.
Well, it's not very realistic.
No, it's not. So another thing I did to this engine was to remove the class lights, and I had to touch up the paint when I did that. So because a lot of these Union Pacific engines had the class lights removed, and they basically did some body work on them and made them disappear in a lot of cases.
Yeah, they're totally gone.
Yeah, so I tried to reproduce that.
Yeah.
Depends on the year you see the photo from. Sometimes you see if it was like the late 80s or early 90s, sometimes you see them just painted over, but they're still there.
Just with paint, no.
Just with paint. But then eventually a lot of them just got removed entirely. So, and they would, have to fill the sheet metal.
Yeah.
So,
I can see that MU hose holder on this end too. Same thing.
Yeah, same thing. It's maybe a little easier to see this one, but see, I can touch it and it's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
I also added the spare knuckles on the Pilot in the back. So I did some work on the trucks and the frame too. I added the brake chain on the front truck.
Yeah, that's a real chain, right?
Yeah, that is. That's some 40 link per inch chain that I got. And had to make it slack enough so that the truck can still swing from side to side. So it hangs down like that a little bit. But I think it looks fairly decent. And then I also painted the frame gray because it was originally black. And it just didn't look right because the real ones are gray. It looks better. It looks more prototypical, and it doesn't call attention to itself so much.
Yeah.
Because it was a contrasting color before. And I added an extra air filter. Just some little things like that, subtle stuff. I mean, these Atlas engines are fairly decent as they come out of the box, but I just did a lot of enhancement. I also obviously weathered it a bit. Did some weathering on all the grills on the side. And I also did some weathering on the lettering, making it look faded because I found some photos and the real one had some faded spots on the lettering, so I tried to reproduce that as best I could too.
Yeah, I remembered when you did the weathering of the letters, I thought that was a pretty clever thing because you used a pink colored pencil for that.
Yeah.
And it was funny because I would probably have just assumed that you would use white because it's red underneath. Pink is really the correct thing because you want it to look like faded red. Well, what looks like faded red? Pink.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, once again, Dan, it's a very good model. This actually appears on one of our very popular YouTube videos. That's the HO DCC Run by Bonanza.
Yeah.
So I'll probably put a link up for that people could click on and watch the Run by Bonanza if they like.
Yeah. I have this locomotive equipped with a LoCSound Select DCC sound decoder and loaded it up with the appropriate GE sound set. I don't know if I've adjusted all the volumes on this thing, so it may be a little loud, but anyway, we'll see what it sounds like.
Well, it's another really neat model, and I'm glad that you took the time to share it. All right. Well, we'll catch everyone next week. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, thanks.